Hey everyone. It's that time again. Everybody's favorite day of the week. So Gianni should be joining here soon. I have my setup is all kinds of wonky because trying to figure all this new stuff out with Restream and using my laptop instead of my phone and all these things. So enjoy my weird apartment layout and my cat tail here and my vacuum in the background. But hopefully Nessie doesn't knock anything over or anything catastrophic today, because if this cup of tea interacts with this laptop, we're going to have a problem. So fingers crossed. All right. So just waiting for Gianni to join me. And then we'll be good to go. Hope everyone can hear me. I have my earbuds in again. That's just I just feel naked without my earbuds, you know? Just gotta have them. Let's see. So interesting. Sorry, I'm looking over all my different stats. Oh, good. Gianni can put their name in too. I was hoping they would be able to put their name and pronouns like I did, but I didn't really know how to tell them how to do it. So, hello.
Look at that. Here we are.
We made it.
No idea, but we're here.
I was glad that you were able to. I'm trying to figure out if I can put your name and pronouns over you. Like I have my name and pronouns, but
yeah, I can see yours.
Things are still very new and confusing.
You're learning.
So yeah. So how are things?
Things are going. Should we kick off from the very beginning with names and interests?
Yeah, I guess we should, because we might end up getting different people, more people who knows. So yeah. So welcome to Afternoon T42. Anybody watching this who doesn't know what this is, this is the show where Gianni and I meet up every Friday to talk about different things that are going on in our lives and where they intersect with being queer and trans, and then at the end we do our shot, because it's it's nice to have community when you have to stab yourself with a needle every week. So yeah, and this week we're talking about a pretty intense subject, and we both have pretty different, we're at different places on it, have different feelings about it, and what have you. So do you want to talk about, or I was wondering if we should talk about just very general, not just jump into legal stuff, the fact that, for instance, my name is the name I don't like saying birth name, because you weren't born with that name. It was kind of like your gender, where people say assigned whatever at birth. I was assigned Erica at birth by my dad. Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. My name's Erica and I use they them pronouns. My name's Erica for now. I use they them pronouns.
I was like, so hello everyone, Gianni, they them pronouns. It's interesting to hear you say that you don't like birth name, because that's actually what I tend to use. Dead name is, I don't know, dead is just a big word. There's a lot of death going on, and to use dead in that context is, I don't want to say insensitive, but it's just not, it doesn't feel quite right for me. It's still, Gianni is not the name that was given to me when I was born. And the name that was given to me when I was born, what I call my birth name, is still a name that I am referred to by other people. So it's just a little weird to like hear. And sometimes I will default to dead name because people know what that means. And it does reference like, hey, that name is not one you should call me, right? Like we have put that one to rest. Yeah, semantics, which is another thing that I like to think about. I did, in preparation for today's AT, I always have to do my map of sorts. And I did do that. I laid out a little bit of what the process has looked like for me. I am currently going through the process of a name change, which is already complicated and stressful and expensive as it is. And it's even more layered for me because I was not born in the US. It's also more layered because I don't have a great relationship with my parents. So the documentation that I need, I cannot easily access. But we can get into that maybe after, like we'll lead into it slowly. I do think that it is important to discuss, and I'm happy to lay it out on what it's looked like for me because I've learned a lot in the process. A lot has been made clear on like exactly how transphobic and how nasty the system is towards gender nonconforming people. But yeah, outside of that, one of the things that I did write on my map was what's in the name, right? Like how do people come to change their names? Some people keep their names. Some people cycle and test out different names on some of the Facebook groups that we're in. I see people like throw up a selfie and they're like, oh, what name fits? Which I think is really interesting. That is not some shit that I would ever do. I don't need people trying to tell me what I look like. But I think it's cool because I see so much of it, and I don't really know like where that place comes from. That you're just like open to hear names. That wasn't like my experience with my name. And you, yeah, like I want to hear like what's in a name for you. You thus far have kept your name. I know we've talked about potentially other names. So if you want to maybe like talk about the rationale of what it's been for you.
Yeah. So what I started to say out of order was that yeah, it's not that I don't like birth name. It's just that it doesn't feel like accurate to me because it's sort of like I was saying, like you're not born with it. Just so because like it's something I've had to unpack because I have this like guilt around it. That's like, well, it doesn't take much for me to be anxious or feel guilty about something anyway. But so I was given the name Erica by my dad. The way that it was set up was that my mom was going to name me if I was born a boy, and my dad was going to name me if I was born a girl. Little did they know. But if I had been born a boy, I would have been Brendan Francis Lance. So there's that. And then, which I hate. I don't like. I actually don't like the name Brandon more than I don't like the name Francis. I would rather just have the first name Francis than the first name Brandon. But Brandon. But my dad came out not with a extremely visible penis. So my dad got to name me, and I am pretty sure that I am named after a soap opera character.
You've mentioned.
Yes, if anyone is familiar, I am named after Erica Kane, who was played by Susan Lucci on Young and the Restless or something like that. I don't. The thing is, I don't hate my name as a name or as a name for myself. I also don't. I remember being thankful when I was younger that like I didn't have a name like, I don't know, like Tiffany or Stephanie or something like more traditionally feminine. Um, but it's only been, my name was another thing that like, just like top surgery, changing my pronouns, all those things. Like it was something that I told myself for a long time that I didn't want and didn't need, because it was just, and it was more of a like, it's more trouble than it's worth sort of a thing. So I convinced myself like, my name's fine, I don't need to change it, whatever. And that's not true, but it's also like, it's that thing where it's like, once you give yourself permission to open up those boxes, you can't unopen those boxes. And so once I opened the box of like, I can get top surgery, I can change my pronouns, I can do this, that, the other thing, then it's been like the past year that I've been like, well, do I like my name? And it's just, it's really interesting because one of my favorite sort of like trans public people, I don't want to say like trans celebrity because I don't know if that really fits, but Laura Jane Grace, who's the lead singer of Against Me, which is a punk group. She's trans, and she had a video on her Instagram yesterday where she talked about like, she did an interview for some magazine or something, and she was talking about how like what the punk scene and what punk music really did for her is allowed her to like, the whole thing about punk is they tell you to like question everything and like question authority and question things that you're just like told, and not just take things for at face value. And that really like allowed her to kind of come into her own and question everything, led to questioning herself and how she saw her gender, and all of that. And it really like spoke to me, because it's like, it's really frustrating questioning everything, because it's just so much easier to just take everything at face value and just take what you're given. And um especially if you are a person who's experienced trauma in your life, like I think there's that, at least for me, speaking for myself, there's that the way I default is sort of just like, oh, I can handle this. This is not a huge deal. Like I've had worse things. I can handle this. So, my brain just goes to like, this is not a big deal. I can deal with having this name. It's not big of enough of a deal for me to change it. So, you know, um, yeah, my experience with my name is definitely a lot different than other people, because like you said, dead name doesn't really, even if I did change my name, I probably wouldn't call it dead name, because I don't even feel that strongly about it.
Sure. That's interesting. A lot of what you said parallels somewhat. Um, you led with saying that you didn't think that it was that big of a deal, and that it was more effort than it was worth to change the name. And I started in a similar place. I knew that it was going to be a cumbersome process. I knew some of what was involved. I was just like, no, it's fine. Like we'll get there when we get there, but there's no rush into it. And I was pretty convinced about that. I actually wanted to, like, I thought that I had made it like a decision, like, oh, I'm just going to keep my name for a while. Um, Not because I loved my name, but because I was avoiding like the hassle that came with it. Um, but it was actually like, number one, I did not realize how triggered I would be hearing my name, um, hearing my birth name or my assigned name, the name, my legal name, if you will. Um, that's something that came earlier than I expected it to, and that I felt it on a deeper level than I ever thought it would. Like, it wasn't just like a little bit of an annoyance. It was like, it made me want to fight. Like, I hear my name, I'd be like, oh, you know. It was a visceral reaction that I was not comfortable with. Like, it wasn't sustainable to, get that physical response every time I heard it. And then the other part of it is that, after taking tea for some time, and being read a little bit more masculine, having that name on my ID ended up becoming just like, again, more of a hassle than it should have been. Like, store, for example, they didn't think that the name on my ID was me, and I actually have one credit card that just says G on it. It doesn't say Gianni because Gianni's not yet my legal name, but it says G. So they were like, "Oh, this doesn't match your credit card." I was like, "Oh, here we go." So then I had to like go to my car, find an ID, another card that I never used because it has that legal name, so that I could present it with my ID. And it was just a whole affair. And I was trying to buy like a $15 bottle of like wine or something. You know what I mean? It was like the hassle for that was just not worth it. And that's happened more than once. And if I need to call the bank or something like that, my name, and I imagine similar to yours, people default and assume she, her pronouns. But my last interaction with the bank, I'm not sure why. I think it was my name. The person that I was on the phone with assumed that I was a man. So it was, yes, sir. Yeah, man, no problem, for like a solid 15 minutes. And then for whatever reason, I then had to confirm my identification, my name. And he got so uncomfortable. You could tell that there had been no training. And it was just another miserable conversation. It was just like an old man. You could tell just like from his voice, it's like no way on how to proceed in a way that was not going to make both of us uncomfortable. He was like, "Oh, well, sir, ma'am," just like, I was like, "Oh man, let's stop." And it's really like it's been all of that culminating, and I'm just like, no, like we're not going to continue doing this. And another big piece of it for me was, approaching graduation. If I don't change my legal name, it's going to be my assigned name that ends up on my doctorate. And that was another like big like push towards getting this done. And because it is a process that takes a long time, like it's a multi-month process. Here we are going through it now. So that's kind of like been the journey for me. I never loved my name. I can tell you it's very similar to Gianni, and that's something that I did want to honor. I didn't want to stray too far from that, and I actually kept my middle name as is. And that's something that felt good for me to do.
Is it like feminine as a middle name, or is it kind of like?
Yeah, so my middle name is Paola, Paola. And my legal name is actually Gianni, but with the letters remixed. So it ends in an A, and it's a bit, it's just feminine presenting. And also like in Colombia, where I'm from, that is a very binary gendered language. Anything with an A at the end is assumed feminine. So it was, just to step away from that, but I was never attached to my name. But I did want to honor that is a name that is attached to me in ways. Like I think back to, like, I've had some pretty formative experience. We talked about like Korea the other day. I lived in Korea for 2 years. I didn't go by Gianni in Korea, right? So when I think of those memories, like it's just a different name. It's not necessarily like an entirely different person. But it felt important to have a little bit of a proximity to that name for me. And I know that's not universally true. But I say that because that's just kind of been like the journey with my name. And um, knowing that that is something that was important to me, like when I decided on Gianni, like it crossed my mind once and I was like, this is it, that's it. And like, I felt like super excited about it. And there's been no looking back ever since that. But I know that that's not true for everybody. And I have a friend who's like tried on like 3 different names for size and gives each one like a few weeks and like, proclaims it, like changes the Facebook, sends a blast of like, hey, this, like call me this name. I just like want to see how it feels. And I think that is like really, really beautiful. It kind of goes back to what you were saying of this idea of like questioning, right? Like pushing back and, being able to explore in ways that we don't have examples of people doing that regularly. So we feel that we can't do it, or we feel like, there's this assumption of like, oh, we're being shaky, or, oh, we're not doing trans the right way. So I really love to see when people feel comfortable doing that, right? And exploring and saying like, this is my journey and this is how I'm going to do it for me, independent of how everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about it a lot, and I honestly think that idea of like being certain, or just sort of like taking what you're given and running with it and just trying to adapt with it as best you can, as opposed to changing something. It's like really looked down upon, at least in America. It feels very, especially from older generations. And I think part of that is honestly just because it's just, I think almost with some people, it's like a jealousy thing where it's like, it's like, well, I couldn't do it, so why should you be able to do it? And there's also very much that in America, as well as I'm sure in Colombia, like that respect your elders thing, and like, you are your parents to a certain degree. And a lot of my trans friends actually have, I know of at least two who have changed their name, but it is similar, or at least starts with the same letter as their birth name did. And funny enough, I don't mind Erica, but I hate Eric. I would never, never make my name Eric. I don't like it. I just, no.
That's funny.
It seems obvious and straightforward, but no, I don't like it. And it's it's really strange. It's but I hear you with all the, having it on your doctorate and stuff like that. Like, it just doesn't, because again, there's that difference between the discomfort that you might have deep down before you like accept that it's sort of like pronouns, where like she, her pronouns didn't make me dysphoric or really upset me before. It wasn't until I let myself consider that I would be happier with they, them pronouns, that now she, her pronouns are like really grating to me. So like if I decided tomorrow, like my name is no longer Erica, it's Eric, and somebody called me Erica, then it would be way more upsetting than it is now. You know what I mean? Because I had made that decision. So it is sort of like that commitment. It goes both ways. It's like the commitment to make yourself happier, but also the commitment to like hearing that other thing that will upset you. And yeah, I mean, I know my friend, my best friend went through the whole name change thing, I think last year, and it's been a nightmare, and is still trying to get everything sorted out on specific documents. But I know there's like a bank now that advertises, I get advertisements for it all the time, that's like, no more dead naming, and like
MasterCard.
Oh, MasterCard does that? I think it's some independent, like small, tiny startup bank that's been advertising to me. But yeah, it'll be like, you can put whatever name you want on your card. I'm like, oh, Okay. That's
It's
cool.
cool to see that, yeah, that the smaller banks are doing it. I know, like, of the big banks, MasterCard is the only one and the first one to allow a different name. Chase allows a shortening to your first initial. So that is,
Oh,
I should probably not show my card on TV. Yeah, like, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, so
yeah.
it's just GP, which is fine. And then um, American Express and Bank of America, and I gladly call them out and will blast them. Neither one accepts a nickname, a shortening of, nor do they have an option to, if you call in, to be referenced by a different name. And
Mm.
Bank of America and American Express, with the the institutions that they are, I find that absolutely unacceptable. And Bank of America does a lot of like pride promotion in the month of June. They're one of the ones that are big on rainbow washing in June. So yeah, fuck them. And I I have an account with Bank of America that I've had for years, and I've toyed with closing it just on principle. But then that comes to bite me in the ass just because I have credit history with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, for anybody that might be interested, and I am super happy to hear that smaller banks and maybe credit unions are being a little bit more inclusive. But of the major institutions, it's MasterCard followed by Chase and American Express, and Bank of America are hard nosed. So fuck both of them until they get their shit together.
Yeah. I was gonna ask something, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, maybe I could just ask, like, does the name change thing? It must vary from state to state. I know with my friend, it was like, had to get had to go to court and all that stuff, but then also had to announce it in the paper.
That is correct. Yeah. So I'm in North Carolina, and I can walk you through what it has looked like for me, and also the way in which it has been layered for, because I wasn't born here. So that has really made it an entire new thing. So what, across all the states, actually, I have not fact checked this recently, but my understanding. Let me just speak for North Carolina myself, just to be accurate. So one of the first things that you have to do is get a fingerprint, and you need multiple sets of fingerprints, 3 ideally. Each one costs money, and you have to do it at either a police station, sheriff's station, or a jail. So I had to go to jail.
I was gonna say it's like you're just going to jail.
And mind you, like, I have been in this jail before, not consensually. So to have to go to get these fingerprints done, it is, you're leading with that. It's already a bad experience, and so when you do the fingerprints, you have to verify all your information. So you're verifying the name that you don't go by. You have to verify your social security. You have to verify the sex on that is on all your other paperwork. Interestingly, there is now an option to not select a sex. So there's M, F, and then an X. But because in North Carolina, the X is not recognized, I still have to default to F when I started this process, right? So that's number one. That costs money. From there, and you also need a lawyer for this process, at least in North Carolina. So that was step one, or the earlier steps. Then you have to get a background check, both a federal background check and a state background check, and depending on what it is on your background check, that could be one barrier to changing your name. Also, if you don't have a social security card, this is all out of the fucking question, and you cannot change your name at all in the U.S. which is interesting because what I learned recently is this entire headache that I'm going through actually only changes my name in the US. So my Colombian passport stays with my dead name. And the moment that I am to travel, I will now have two different passports. And like, who knows what immigration is going to look like for me in the future. But yeah, that's another piece to this. So you get background checks. Another thing that I learned recently is that these background checks have an expiration date to them. So if you don't complete all of this within 90 days, you actually have to start the entire procedure over. So I'm past like my halfway mark in this, in part because of the lawyer, in part because of other documents that have been hard to get access to, and also because of COVID, right? The courts are running slower. So if just like one tiny thing goes awry, this entire thing has to be started from scratch. So yes, this arbitrary number attached to the background checks that, could just make this entire thing blow up and have to start over. In North Carolina, you also need character witnesses that live in the same county that you do. So that was a challenge for me as well, because I had been living in the same place in a different county for 4 years. And that, that county was where my university is, where like all of like my friends and colleagues are, anybody, I could have had character references as I wanted there, but because I recently moved, I don't know people in this county. I kid you not, I know 2 people and my direct neighbors. Like, that's all I know. One, thankfully, is a friend, and then the other person was actually a faculty member from the university that happens to live in this county. And I had to reach out to them and ask if they would do this. But if I did not have that faculty member, like, I am not certain who I would have asked. Like, more than likely, I would have had to ask and disclose all sorts of information, personal information, disclose my dead name to my neighbor. And, who might have said, yes, I feel comfortable doing this or not, right? And then they have to go to a bank or a notary to get, to sign this official document, get it notarized, and then pass it back to me. So that's another step. Speaking of the moving piece, I need an updated ID that shows my new address here in Durham, where I am, which I had not gotten. And I was actually advised to not get the ID until I changed my name, because you have to go to the DMV, you have to pay for a new ID. However, the court requires that you have an updated ID. So even though I'm changing.
So you had to spend money to update an ID that you won't use.
Correct. Well, that and that's where like the dates become important and matter, because the DMV right now is not doing walk-ins. They're on appointment only because of COVID. So my first available DMV date is July 1st, and the background check expiration is July 5th.
Oh my God.
So talk about layering. And because I'm not, and I mean, this is like the crux of everything, because I'm not born, because I was not born here, they need documentation from Colombia. I have an estranged relationship with my parents, so I can't ask them to help me get this documentation. Colombia right now is on a national strike, so a lot of the government offices there are, working on limited personnel, and are also, behind and swamped because of COVID. So I've had a lot of trouble trying to get that paperwork. And it's really ironic because, like, if you wanted to change your name, all you would have to present is your U.S. passport, right? I also have a U.S. passport, but they don't accept it. So, like, in the country that is, like, so, like, gung-ho about you need your citizenship, now it doesn't matter. But they want my paperwork from Colombia. Even though I am a citizen, and even though I would not be able to change my name if I was not a citizen. But they don't accept my U.S. passport. So that, and after we have all of that squared away, yes, then you have to pay to have a newspaper announcement for 2 weeks, and in North Carolina, as well as a court announcement, which is like an actual physical piece of paper that goes on the court doors downtown. And again, because of COVID, those announcements are also being blasted out publicly to anyone that's on that listserv. So it becomes, thankfully, like, my parents don't live in the same county that I do, and I am in a bigger county where people aren't looking out or policing like what I'm doing with my life. But that's not true in rural areas, right, where people are just a little bit more invested, and it becomes a safety and potentially jeopardizing your life in this posting that is required to change your name. And then after that, and so if somebody saw that announcement and did not want me to change my name, they could go on that announcement in North Carolina. There's also the date of when you have a court appearance for a judge to either say, yes, I accept this, or I don't accept this. People can go and say, no, I have a problem with this person changing their name.
Oh my God, like at a wedding, if anyone objects to this. Oh no.
And that's the purpose of the announcements, is to make it public to see if anybody has an issue.
Why is that a thing? I don't understand how that could ever possibly, like, why?
Well, it used to be. The reason why trust me, I've done my homework on this. Like, the origin point of these laws, it's gendered, it's race, and now it's transphobic, right? So where I am in the South, where there were laws prohibiting interracial marriage, you would have to post if you were changing, if you were getting married and changing your name and, getting married to somebody of a different race. And that's
is this okay with all of you? Is this
okay? And if not, and people would say and would say no. And with this name change, it's, I have to highlight this because in North Carolina, there are a lot of rural counties where people actually do read these sort of announcements, and people do end up, both risking their life and being in harm's way by making public that they're changing their name, and people finding out, and outing themselves to who knows how many conservative people that are, trigger happy in their rural hillbilly counties. And it's 2021. Like, we're still doing this. So that is the process of a name change.
But happy Pride Month, Gianni.
Right? Yeah, just throw a rainbow, slap a rainbow on it. Nothing's wrong.
Joe Biden said happy Pride. So fucking homophobia, transphobia is over. Get with the program.
Obviously.
Wow. It just goes to show, like, we should do our shots here. But it just goes to show how fucking stupid and janky the whole thing is. I'm reminded that I've brought this up before, but I love bringing it up because it's so funny to me. My legal ID is the most janky thing you've ever seen. Because when I had it was, I need to get a new one anyway, but I'm trying to get a passport now instead of an ID, because it's just better. But when I had my picture taken for the ID, I had my head shaved. It was like right after I had shaved my head. Also, it was pre-T, like whatever. So you can tell that it's me. Like, it's not like you look at it and you're like, but you can tell that. But it looks more like a relative of mine. And then also someone somewhere, it wasn't me, put down my gender as male. So I am legally male on my ID, and have yet to have anyone say anything about it. And every time someone asks me for my ID, like in New York, people will occasionally ask you for that for your credit card or whatever. And I always wait. I wait for someone to say, like, is this you? No one said it yet.
Did you notice at the DMV?
No, because I got it in the mail. Like, the ID came in the mail.
Oh, yes.
So, I filled out my paperwork, handed it to them, gave it to them, and it was in their hands. And then I got it a few weeks later and was like, hello. Yeah, so, it just goes to show that nothing means anything. It's just a piece of plastic that someone put male on there next to my name being Erica. But no one cares. Whatever. And the people who take it behind the counter don't give a shit. But
I think that's a great
as
story.
as far as it being like illegal, whatever the fuck, it's just so stupid.
Here we are.
Here we are.
All
Here
right.
we
Are you
are.
your left leg today?
I'm on my right leg today again, because I've done my left leg the past 2 weeks. I really got to get back on a schedule because it's stressing me out to every week be like, what did I make up last week? What did I arbitrarily decide last week?
Right.
Oh boy, we're at that weird part of the vial now. Great. All these little bubbles in there. Oh. Okay. Next week's going to be even more of a struggle. All right. I can't get my needle off. This week just is determined to be a challenge. All right. Okay. All right. You ready for deep breath time?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. Feel free to take deep breaths with us if you like. All right. Ready? In and back out. And one more. In and back out. All right. Let's see. Do I have a freckle that can tell me where to go on this leg?
Your target. Your dark targets.
Yeah, some white as fuck. All right. Yeah, I guess right there. All right. Okay, you ready?
All right.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
What?
What?
Nothing. I heard 1, 3, but it's fine.
Oh. Well, I did not say 1, 3. I would not do that to you.
Ow.
I am not a person who believes in the surprise countdown. I don't like that.
What?
No, I do not like the idea of on 3, 1, and then you do it now.
We gotta believe it, but it's okay.
Sorry about that. I hope it still ended up okay. All right. Well, I know you got to get to a meeting. Thank you for talking about this. I know it's a intense topic and you're in the thick of it right now, but thanks for showing up and doing that. And thanks everybody for watching. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Have a good week. And we'll see you next week.
Do it again next week.
Bye.